I've had a few questions recently about which kukris I like sort of the most and why. So I just thought I'd stick up there my Himalayan Imports one, which is a beautiful looking kukri. It's just a beast. It's way too thick for a usable one. It's the first one I got, and I'm kind of attached to it in certain ways because of that, maybe. But it's not a particularly useful or usable kukri. So I'll go over some of the ones I've got. I haven't actually used them, well, I have been using them. I've been chopping out a whole pile of yuccas I've got that someone planted in my house. Don't know why they planted yuccas, they're horrible beasts, there's no redeeming features. So I've been chopping them out, and so I've been using the kukris, just I'd like to see how they go. But I've also been neglecting them a bit, so they're not in a great shape at the moment. So anyway, this one is the BK21. It's got some big rust spots on it because I've just been chopping and then going on to the next one. They all need a bit of love, but it's still, oh yeah, fairly sharp, does the job. BK21, it's not really a kukri, perhaps it is. It's certainly designed by someone who liked kukris, went to Nepal, talked to the Nepalese people, came back and made a Western version. If you want a kukri, but don't want a fully Nepalese one, then this is a really good option. Not least because they're repeatable. Each one is the same as much as can be. Great, easy to use, easy to handle. Plastic handle. It's got a Crovan, which basically means it's a crappy carbonyl steel, just like the rest of them. Blade. It rusts, as you can see, if you don't look after it, and I need to look after it more. But it's a good, dependable blade. However, if you want something that's genuine, I'll go on to this. This is the best looking kukri I've got. This is a Tora Blades Mark 1 kukri. So this, in my opinion, is the most beautiful, authentic looking kukri I've got. Right from the cho, right down to curve in the blade, the fuller, the handle, sunken nut, whole shebang. Yeah. Haven't sharpened this since last I used it. Still pretty sharp. Great blade, authentic, not actually very good. For me, personally, the reason for that, it's got a traditional temper, which isn't as good as a more modern temper. Basically, they take a teapot, pour it over the hot blade to cool it down. That means one part is going to be a lot harder than the other by the time the water has got to it and quenched it. And the handle, for me, it hurts when I chop. It digs in, can you see that? Into there. Maybe it's because it's too short. I don't know. If I choke up on the blade and hold it right up there, that bit doesn't. But if I just pick it up normally, it digs in and makes a hot spot there. So saying, beautiful, beautiful blade. Very authentic. Doesn't get a great deal of use. Next, heritage blades. So, heritage blades, I bought this. This is the Papu, which I think is a mistranslation of a maker's mark that was on the original. There was about 200 of these found in the Madras arsenal. I've heard someone else say these were made for a Maharaja's personal bodyguard. Don't know where they got that information from, but they're big, solid kukri. It's got a thin blade for a big thing like this, so it does chop well, but so saying I've got a beef with it. And the beef is, isn't it sliceability? It's very slicey dicey. The beef I have with this particular model is that the maker nailed through here a great big dirty carbon steel nail, which is how he put this thing together. That meant that the nail actually protruded all the way through, caused a little knives, the Jetmac and this little thing here, to rust like crazy, and the actual kukri itself to rust like crazy. There's rust marks caused by a nail, a carbon nail that they built the sheath with, and that bugged me. Now I could go back to the guy who made it, and give him a chance to set it right. I don't know if he could be bothered. Been a long time. They might do it differently now. Other than that, it's nice. They did a really good job. They made a little thing on the end there, protector, the tip, good solid leather. Just that one nail just marked the whole thing up for me. Good blade though. So that brings us to the blades I use most often. Now that's Kailash. Now I should point out I don't have any affiliation with any of these makers. I've just found that these guys do a really good job. They're not as authentic or traditional as the Tora blades, but they've got a way better heat treatment, and they do a really nice fuller too. So this is what they call their M43 Marshall variant. Now it's not an M43 at all. It's got very little to do with M43, but that's what they call it, and they can call it whatever they like. It's westernized, so it's got a handle which is a western style handle. Still has a cho though, but it's done very nicely. It's got a polished blade, performance grind. It's light, very light, very quick in the hand, but still solid. It's got a like a tapered tang. There's a lot of detail that's gone into it. It's just not an M43, and some people jump up about that and say, oh, it's not an M43. I don't care. That's what they call it. It's their blade. Well, mine now. They can call it whatever they want, right? So, at the other end of the spectrum, we've got this, which is a Surapati they made. It's a full tang Surapati. So, traditionally, Surapatis aren't full tang. But, it's a very nice blade. It's got engraving in it. Very long, very thin. For me personally, there's not enough belly and not enough curve. I like curves. Makes wife content. Yeah, anyway. So not enough belly to that. It's a bit ragged. I did chop a lot of trees with this one. And again, it needs a good clean up. All of these do. So Surapati, long, thin, which is their claim to fame. It's got a tapered tang as well. Steel furniture. This one was actually a mistake. They made it for a customer who requested brass, I think, and they put steel on there or something, and so they offered it to me cheap, and so I whipped it up and grabbed it. But I would happily get rid of it. It's not what I was after. It's not what it just doesn't suit me personally. And now I come down to what are my two favourites. Okay, so second, and only just second, almost first, is the JD Pensioner. Copper, leather stacked handle. That was options that I chose. This one here is an Ancola. It's got a deep fuller in here. It's got a slight hollow grind in the blade. The Tora is actually slightly hollow grind as well when you look at it. This one gets a lot of use just because it's the one I tend to reach for. It's got a slight chip up there, I think. It's just catching on something. So probably a chip. Again, it's been used a lot. I reach for it a lot. Slightly longer handle, so unlike the Tora, when I chop it doesn't dig into my hand. But this is a really good, really functional, really practical kukri. So this is, without a doubt, my almost favourite. Almost favourite. Now we come to what is my absolute favourite. And this is my Mutiny. So for this I opted for a Kydex sheath, Makata handle, so that those two options mean those things will last forever. It's got brass on it, and it's got this long blade, almost as long as the Surapati, perhaps as long, but it's got more curve, a little bit more belly, not a great deal, but I really like the curve on this. So this is without a doubt the blade that I reach for when things go bump in the night. It's got a distal taper, a very specific one, going all the way to the tip, reducing as it goes along. A stick tang goes all the way out to the back, but it's thinner inside and there's nothing exposed, so you can use it in the cold. Deep fuller all the way through. This is just a fantastic blade. If this one here had that belly, so just a little bit more, not a great deal, but just a hint more to it, it would be, in my opinion, the perfect kukri. So saying that, I'm actually working on a stainless kukri because, as you can see, all these have taken a fair bit of rust just from New Zealand being a damp environment. If you are somewhere that was less damp, you might get away with it. Here you just need to do constant maintenance, or you dunk the whole damn thing in vinegar and stain it and get away with it. I haven't gone that way yet, but I might do. Yeah, so those are my favourites. I think Kailash has the best heat treatment in the business and the most options for handle material and things like that. I think Tora have the most traditional blade, and Heritage Blades are an also player that has some interesting options, some interesting models. Ruined it for me by having a nail which caused my blades to rust. I might take it up with them at some point, but I'm so happy with my Kailash blades that I probably won't. Cheers, guys. Oh, and the BK21, you know, if that ticks your boxes, then it's a really good blade. Just, it's not traditional. The way I've made mine, they aren't really traditional either, but that's less traditional than the ones that I've had, which aren't quite traditional either, but yeah. So anyway, for my money, if you want something to use, get a Kailash. If you want something to stick on the wall, get a Tora. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Other people might have different opinions like assholes. We all have them. Cheers, guys.